Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Madam, please confirm. Good evening, everybody. At the very outset, I extend my sincere greetings to all members, principals, and directors of the CBSE schools of Kodarma district who have come together to make this Sahodaya group a very active platform for sharing knowledge and expertise in the best and optimal way. My hearty welcome and good wishes to all teachers and staff of Sahodaya complex of Kodarma district for participating in this in-house mandatory training with a lot of enthusiasm. I'm really pleased to see the inspiring way in which teachers have been exhibiting their deep knowledge on this forum and with their fellow personnel on plethora of topics. The NEP 2020 is the first educational policy of this century and aims to address the many growing developmental imperatives of our country. The policy proposes the revision and revamping of all aspects of educational structure, including regulation, governance, to create a new system that is aligned with the aspirational goals of 21st century education. The National Education Policy 2020 lays particular emphasis on the development of the creative potential of each individual. It is based on the principle that education must develop not only cognitive capacities, both the foundational capacities of literacy and numeracy, and high order cognitive capacities such as critical thinking and problem solving, but also social, ethical, and emotional capacities and dispositions. Hoping that this session will be as useful and enlightening. I thank all of you for joining us today. Special thanks to Mr. Salendra Kumar, the training coordinator. In fact, I've been meetings also. In fact, you for taking time out, and I hope it will be as enlightening and as fruitful for everyone amongst us. Thank you. We can start off, madam.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Honorable Principal, sir, Sainik School Tilaya, respected President, Sohdia School Complex, Kodarma, principals, coordinators, educators, and everyone present in this session. Good evening to all of you. Myself, Vikas Kumar Singh, Lavian Sainik School Tilaya. I welcomes you all in the in-house Sohdia training program. So, as we all know that today's topic is National Education Policy 2020. So, but before going towards the silent features and the other recommendations given by National Education Policy 2020, let me attend to the aim of this session. The aim of this session is to provide a brief outline of National Education Policy 2020 to let educators know about the main features, highlights, and the changes which are recommended or suggested or incorporated in the new national education policy. And I will try to especially emphasize on the school education as we all are directly related with that school education. And if the time permits, I will try to provide the details of the silent features or the highlights of higher education also, and to spread the awareness among educators on the other key areas of NEP 2020 is also the aim of this session. We know that we all are directly or indirectly related with the students or we are from the education sector. So basically, we must have a brief outline or the idea of the national education policy, so that whenever any students or the parents will ask about this, we are comfortable to provide them authentic information or disseminate them the things which is required, uh, so that they can take decisions. So before going further towards the features and the recommendations of the National Education Policy 2020, let me throw a brief idea on the history of the national education policies in India. So till date, we are having or we have the three national policies. Like first comes in the 1968, second in 1986, and third recently in 2020. So let me start with the one by one. So the first national education policy, which first comes under the leadership of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in 1968, under the chairmanship of uh, D.S. Kothari. So this 1968, the first education policy, it has given a lot of good recommendations or suggestions in regard of the national policies. Mr. I request Mr. Ashok Kumar to please switch off his video, mic and video. Okay, so let me proceed further. So the first education policy also gives a lot of good recommendations, like a three language formula was given in this first time in this. Sir, sir.
Who is Mr. Ashok Kumar? Ashok Kumar ji, Ashok Kumar. Hello,
We are checking it, sir.
Ashok Kumar. Mr.
Ashok.
Ashok Kumar, which is your school?
Yeah. Sir, we uh, uh, right.
Mr. Ashok Kumar, sir, please remove Ashok Kumar.
Yeah, sir. We have removed him. We removed, sir.
Now don't allow him to join the meeting.
Sir. So we are here in that first national education policy. So we are talking about that. What are the features? What are the recommendations? The good recommendations given in that first education policy. That was like three language formula. The first time is given in that first national education policy, like providing a free education to children below 14 years, or to compulsory education, or to spend at least 6% of GDP on the education. Remember, it's a very interesting actually that in the first time in 1968, the 6% we have to spend on that our education, that was given. The this recommendation is given in that time, and still in 2020 we see that the same recommendation has given. So it's a policy matter. Let's see that when we are going to get that whole 6% of the GDP, so that we can develop infrastructures, laboratories, libraries, and everything will be on the streamline anyway. In second education policy, which was comes under the leadership of Rajiv Gandhi in 1986, but soon after, within 5 years, it was felt that it needs some modification or the review or the changes. So, under the chairmanship of Acharya Ramamurthy, uh, that he reviewed this 1986 education policy, and it was again comes in 1992 in a modified manner. It has also given a lot of good changes or the recommendations like the CCE pattern, or the providing the semester examination was introduced in second education policy, or to improve the primary education like Operation Blackboard was the very famous of the that time. And very interesting, very important, that equal opportunity was focused for the women's or the deprived category of the people or disadvantages group. So these are the few important recommendations given in that second education policy. So now when we are talking about that third education policy, which was released or announced under the leadership of present Prime Minister Narendra Modi, under the chairmanship of K. Kasturi Rangan. He was one of the great scientists of India and a former chief of the ISRO. One important thing which I'd like to share with that, this present education policy 2020, it's a highly participative. Participate in the sense that around 2 lakh suggestions from 2.5 panchayats and around 6,600 blocks or the 676 districts of India. We have received this drafting committee have received the recommendation from that suggestions from all over the India, whether they are that school stakeholders or university stakeholders or general citizens or the people of India. They have given a lot of suggestions, and you can easily imagine that how much brainstorming sessions was gone or done while preparing this 2020 draft. And in this way, in May 2019, this policy, the 2020 draft was submitted to HRD Ministry. So now come to that latest national education policy. It was approved by the Union Cabinet of India on 29th July 2020. And this education policy, the present education policy, it provides a pathway, a guideline, an outline of the vision of India's new education system. And as I told, that this replaces our 1986 policy. After the long 34 years of gap, we have received or get our new education policy. So that was a long awaited thing, and the main aim of this policy is to transform the whole Indian education system by 2040. And the NEP has recommended that till 2040, all the universities of India will become the multidisciplinary, and they will establish a one university in the each district of the India. So that was really a good view, the futuristic view they have taken it, and it is available in the around 22 languages. So any person who want to go through with that, and they can go through with this policy without any language barrier. And it's also available in the audio books for the differently abled people. So before going towards the features, let me tell you that this National Education Policy 2020, it is divided or made into the four parts or the four chapters is there. First, which is deal with that is school education. Next one is the higher education. We will try to focus on the school education first, as I told earlier, and if the time permits, definitely we will go through with the higher education, their features also, along with the other key areas of the focus, which includes or having and the professional educations, adult education, or the online or distance learning, or the world class digital infrastructures, etc. It's included that thing. And finally, when we are talking about the fourth chapter, or the fourth part of this National Education Policy 2020, so it is having that how can we implement this. The implementation part is given there, the funding part is given there, how can we provide the affordable or the quality education to all, that things are mentioned here. And this actually, this National Education Policy 2020, it's based on that five pillars, the fundamental pillars, you can say, that accessibility, it must be accessible. This education system our education system must be accessible to everybody. It must be affordable. It must be affordable to everybody, irrespective of their economic status or the social issues or whatever there is. The equity and inclusive education is included there. And very important, the accountability, which deals with us, the people who are dealing with that education. So these are the five fundamental pillars which national education policy has suggested or given in there. Now, let's comes to the highlights of the school education. The HRD as the Ministry of Education, the standard setting of accreditation for the school education, new pedagogical structure, examination reforms, multilingualism, or that the importance of language the given in that NEP, equitable, inclusive, vocational education. All this, I've selected out few important points or the salient features of national education policy, and we will try to discuss one by one. So first one is, as I said, that HRD as a Ministry of Education, it is directly not related with the school education, but I have included it to just provide you some facts also. In 1985, that Ministry of HRD, Ministry of Education. It was known as the HRD actually, Ministry of Education. In 1985, it was changed as the Ministry of Human Resource and Development. And at the time of second education policy, when it was announced in 1986, in that time it was announced that Ministry of Education will now known as the HRD, Human Resource and Development. And once again, in that third education policy, this again has renamed as the Ministry of Education. So history repeated itself again, and now the Ministry of HRD is known as the Ministry of Education. It is not only recommended, now it is on that ground also. We can see that everywhere in the websites or that on paper, we are getting the Ministry of Education instead of HRD. So it is implemented also. So next, we go towards that standard setting and accreditation for the school education. So when we are talking about the schools or the college, university, it required some minimum professional standards or the norms. For that thing, that national education policy has recommended to establish a state school standard authority that will look after to setting up of the minimal professional at the quality standards, and it will be a state or union territories independent body. Okay. And again, not only that actually, further it will deal that one more thing, the SCRT will develop one more thing, the school quality assessment and the accreditation framework. And this framework is basically related with the standards and the best practices for attaining individual and institutional excellence. So these two standard bodies, which are basically independent state bodies, they will look after the accreditation and the standard norms and the quality education for the schools. And important thing is that this both will the it will applicable to the both type of school, whether it's the government school or the private school, means public and private school, based on the same criteria. There is no distinguish or biasness or differences when we are giving accreditation to these schools on the basis of these standards. So now come to the very important part of a very important feature of this new national education policies recommendation, that is a new pedagogical structure or the new education system which was suggested or recommended by the NEP. The presently we are following the 10 plus 2 education system, and that will be going to change into a 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 format. So this new pedagogical structure is uh, it's a reform actually. You can say it's a wonderful reform. Because why it's a good reform? Because it wants to catch the students from the early age only. Previously, the when this national education policy comes out, the people are having the doubt that now the students used to ask us also that whether the class 10th or 12th examination will not happen, in class 11th we are going to have that board examination, or the college or this the 3 years which are increases which increased here in this system, that created a lot of confusion among the students. But it is not like that. Okay. Main thing is that the 5 plus 3 plus 3 system, in this system, 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, there are four stages are there. And first stage it is divided into the two parts, that is 3 plus 2. 3 means for the catching up the early child, the early childhood care education. first 3 plus 2, which is deals with the kindergarten, the LKGs or UKGs or class 1 and 2. Second stage deal with the preparatory stages, middle stage, secondary stage, which I will describe in the next slides. Okay. So now come to this new pedagogical structure. So currently, the existing academic structures we are having is 10 plus 2, and I guess that most of the people who are sitting that side or this side, they belongs to they had passed out from this academic structure only. 80%, I guess, or more than that also. But in the new academic structure, a new pedagogical structure, we can see in the fundamental stage, first one which is known as the fundamental stage, in which the students will get entry in the age of 3 to 6 only. In the private institutions, these systems are already existing, like kindergarten, LKG and UKG. It's already available. But when we are talking about the public sector, the government school, the well established infrastructure is not there. If exception is only there, the Anganwadi. But now in national education policy has recommended the bal vatikas or the preparatory schools, so where the students will get motivated to join it at the early ages. And that was the main thing actually. And an important thing is that there is no examination at that level. They were encouraged to join it. And the study or the teaching learning process will based on the play activities, or the quizzes or the peer study or the storytelling. That was the way that they will learn and study there. And year after year they will promote it to the next classes, and this will go on till class second. Now we will come to that next level, that is known as the next stage, that is known as the preparatory stage. This is the stage, the first stage, where the student will get the exposure of the examination in this new national education policy. At the age of 8 to 11, in the class of 3 to 5, they will get enrolled themselves, or they will come in that, where they will study the environmental sciences or the mathematics, and activity based interactive classroom learnings will be there. And the language is focused very much. The local language are used to teach them right from the fundamental to the preparatory or the middle stages. We will discuss on the language part later on. So come to the next one, that the middle stage. So in middle stage, this is the stage in the national education policies, which is where we can see the lot of changes or the focus was done, like the vocational educations were being introduced at this level. Okay. Then again, the coding system, the coding for the boys or the coding for that students are introduced in this level. You can see the lot of white hat private companies already started this coding, that NEP has made it compulsory. So this is the stage. This is the stage 6 to 8 years, our middle stage, where we can see the lot of changes are introduced there. But again, when you are going to that secondary stage, there is a reform actually, the new things, the multidisciplinary study has comes in that stage only. Previously what happened in that 10 plus 2 system, students are supposed to opt for their subjects like science, commerce, or the arts or humanities. But that concept was going to finish now. The NEP are suggesting want to eradicate such system. Now there is no science, there is no commerce, there is no humanities. The students who want whatever interest they are having, they can come and join that subject. They can study that subject and excel their life in that subjects only. Okay. Basic aim is that to provide such subjects in which they are interested and they can excel, so that they can develop the greater critical thinkings, or they can understand the core concept. If they are not interested, how they are going to understand the thing? That's the main thing. So from the ninth onwards only, they are able to choose the subjects of their interest. So that was the big change, you can say. And at that level only, they are able to choose a foreign language also if they want. In the three language formula, that was the stage here where they can choose the foreign languages also. So we can see this is the great reform in the national education policy when we are talking about the pedagogical structure or the education system in the schools. So now come to that early childhood care and education. So in this education system, government want to catch the students at their early age, because we know, we used to see that advertisements in our home, or the Horlicks or the Complan, ki 85% brain ka vikas is going to happen in this age only. So you start giving your children's the Horlicks and the Bonvita. So Horlicks and Bonvita is going to develop that brain or not, it I don't know. But it is very important that if they will provided good environment for the study, okay, then obviously their brain are going to develop at early ages. If they this is the stage only where they can improve their language proficiencies, uh, they can generate the interest towards the particular area. So over we know that at this early stages their brain actually develops as per the scientific research or the papers where we have gone through. So to provide the quality education for the young children, especially to the socially or the economically disadvantages of the students, uh, this early education childcare was started, so that we can bring generate a foundation of learning among the students, that early students. And this education is not based on the books or the chapters or mathematical questions. It is based on that play based activities. These were the basically activity based learning, play based learning, the uh, peer study learning, where they can learn from each other. The puzzles are there, quizzes, problem solving, art, craft, drama, movies, cartoons. It will be provided to them. Okay, so but there was a one question arises, that how we will do that? We are not having that type of infrastructure, you know. So that question has arisen, but we are on the name of the infrastructure. We are only having the Anganwadi Kendras. So government has decided, or the NEP has recommended that that the Anganwadi workers, those who are having the 10+2 degree, they will provided a certificate or the course, and after completing that 1 year course they will get a certificate of early childhood care and education. And those, sorry, for the 6 months, those who are having the qualification of 10+2, and those who are having class qualification of 10th class, they have to complete a course of 1 year, so that they will get awarded a 1 year diploma under the early education care and early childhood care and education. So in that way, and that was also based on the ODL, that the online or distance learning base, so that the that work may not hampered. So these are the few things where the government has, for the training part, the government has tried to focus. So, and not only that, a national curricular and the pedagogical framework for the early childhood care and education, that is known as the NCPFECCE, is going to be set up. And this will be set up in the two stages, for the for 0 to 3 years old, and one sub framework for the 3 to 8 years old. And while framing this this pedagogical structure or the curricular, national or international best practices will be taken into care, so that we can excel in a better way. Also we can establish a good foundation to the early childrens of our country. So hopefully that this early childhood care and education where NEP has focused is going to help for children to develop physical and the motor development, or to cognitive developments, or the cultural artistic developments. And this is the age where obviously the children are able to develop their language skills, literary and minimum numeracy skills. They are going to develop it. So we are what I feel that it's a very positive and a good step to catch the students at the early age, from the age of 3 only. They will play, they will enjoy, and they will learn also. So now come to that assessment part, the examination and assessment reforms which government has suggested or done. So so when we are talking about the examination, the 10th or the 12th board examination will be happen as it was continuing, but the focus was given on that core concepts or the competency based study. Actually, conceptual learning will be focused. That rote memorization or rote learning process is going to be eradicated as per the recommendation of this national education policy. It Nobody is going to ask now that what when that quit India movement was started, or the what Mahatma Gandhi has done it, the questions now may be asked that what you will do if you are a Mahatma Gandhi. So people will, the students will have their own opinion, own thoughts, they will analyze, and the learning outcome will come when they are analyzing the thoughts and giving the answers. So now for the 21st century, uh, skills is to be developed, and this type of assessment systems or reforms are required. So and students will get a chance to improve their scores also when they are giving that examination. The two examination will happen, one the main examination and one the improvement examination. Currently the same system is there, so let's see that in the reformed way, the refined way, how it is, how this system is coming. The subjects will have different types of levels, like if some students wants to continue with the mathematics in their further studies, then they can opt for that basic that is standard mathematics. And if they want to skip mathematics in their further classes, they can go with the basic concepts and the ideas. Similarly, like we are having that a core Hindi elective Hindi, or the core English elective English. So in similarly in the other subjects also we will find that levels of the subject. If you want to continue that, you can take a level where you can understand that subject with a more depth. So that is the thing. So when we are coming out the assessment part, so assessment is very interesting things has happened and reformed in this recommended by the NEP, that there will be a self assessment also. Student can assess themselves, the teachers will assess themselves, their peer group, their friends can access themselves, their parents will access them. And you will say we again we see that when the students are passing out from the schools, and they are and they being asked that what is your strength or the weaknesses, they are not able to describe it, because they have not accessed themselves anytime. They don't know about themselves. Basically they're not concentrated on that part. So these things will allow them to learn about themselves also. Suppose if they are writing that I am hardworking, I am honest, or I am so and so, so students in the few days or few years they will try to inculcate that habits in them. What I guess it will going to help in this way also, when their friends are going to assess them, then obviously they will have the cordial relationship with their peer group, their friends, because they have to stay with them 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever there is. So gradually what happened that they will have the more cooperation and more coordination. So this assessment way is going to help them in that way also, that I assume actually. Maybe the people have the different opinions. Okay. Along with that assessment part, and the parents will also assess the student, and the teachers as usual, they are assessing, they are checking, evaluating the students. So in this way the students will get a 360-degree multi-dimensional report card for their cognitive effectiveness, psychomotor skills will be assessed, and they'll come to know about it. But for that thing, one structure is required, one the new way of assessment is required. So the completely this completely redesigned structure has come up in the name of the parak. Okay, the parak. So that parak is basically a performance assessment review analysis of knowledge for holistic development. When you are talking about is a full form, it will be a standard setting body under the Ministry of Education. And recently in the 12th November 2020, and I am recalling it was on the newspaper, that they are first time after the establishment, after the recommendation of NEP, the National Achievement Survey was conducted, in which they try to find out the learning outcomes of whatever the students has achieved studying in their classroom, uh, that they're matching with their outcomes, learning outcomes or not. In this time the learning outcomes was focused a lot, that actually they are getting the things or not, or syllabus concepts are clear or not, or whether they are just memorizing the things. So this parak is going to be a standard setting body, and this will frame the guidelines along with SCRT or the NCRT, the State Council of Education Research and Training, and the National Council of Education Research and Training. And the examination, when you're talking about the examination, the semester semester wise exam, they will have this, not semester examination will have the term wise examination will have, but they will have that not only objective type question, it is especially emphasis that objective and subjective, the both type of questions will be there in their assessment papers. So these are the few changes, the reforms which I found in the school education, which I have discussed it. Later on, there are many other things are also mentioned there. Uh, but I found these important points which I feel that I must share when we are talking about the school assessment. Assessment. Okay. So now comes towards that multilingualism and the power of language. So language has given a very much focus in this time, in that sense that right from the beginning, from 1968 only, the three language formula was being given, it is suggested, and again in the 2020 the language formula was this language formula, the focus on the language is given very much. You can see everywhere it was been become little bit of controversial also at the time of releasing that 2020, that education will be given or instructions will be given to the students in their mother language or the local or the regional languages only. But because in the private schools or the schools which are basically focusing on the english medium pattern, so they feel that they will get lost due to one or other reasons. But government has said, strictly mentioned it, that no language will be imposed on the students, means there is an option for that, that things which are going on usually that will go on, but governments want to focus that we must provide the education to the students in their mother language, in their regional or the local language, because in that language they are going to grasp or understand the concepts very easily. Once they will understand the concept or the things easily, then in the further ages uh, they can understand in any language, they can learn the other languages and go through with that. But there is some pros and cons also, as the english is the international language. If they want to go abroad or study the more researched papers which are available in the english languages, and other factors are also there. But but the main thing is that the nep has given much emphasis on promoting the multilingualism in the three stages. In the first stages, like at the fundamental and preparatory stage, where they want that education must be in that their local languages or their mother language, and when they will come up to that middle language, they can opt to one more language like any other indian language along with their own regional language. And once they will achieve, or once they will reach towards that that the middle or above level, then at the secondary level, then they can opt to one international languages also. This is the three language formula: your own language, one of your own national language, or one more international language you can opt. Okay, so this in that way the government or the nep wants to improve or the provide a path to the learning languages in india. See now, now come to that next feature, which was very much discussed about that vocational education. So vocational education, before going towards and talking about the vocational education, let me tell you that what this vocational education is. We are hearing every time we are having the syllabus or the chapters or the subjects also or the vocational education, but people are having doubts that what is vocational education, why it is different from the others. It is a in hand practice, it is a skill based education actually. The vocational education, it is an education which makes and prepare students skillful and specialized in the particular trade or a craft or the art or the an occupation. It This vocational education gives a career and the technical education to the students. Let me say, tell you one fact regarding the India when you're talking about the vocational education, that it was considered as the inferior as compared to the mainstream education. Yes, this is right. It is considered as perceived as the inferior because the students who are not performing good in the class 8, or if they had not performed well in their senior secondary classes, then they are going to opt for that this vocational type of educations. And that and that reimagination reform is required, that we must understand that the power of the vocational education. See, when we are talking about the datas of the 12th 5-year 2012 to 17, the 19 to 24 years of age group, okay, of India, they have received the formal education. But when we are gone through with the USA, there the number is 52%, in Germany 75, and in that South Korea it is 96% students have are taking a vocational education. So, and they are excelling, they are doing well in their life, their youngsters, their students are doing good. So it shows a need to spread a vocational education in India, and it is required. It's a dire need to promote the vocational education, and for that thing national education policy 2020 has taken decision and implemented it, that it must be introduced from the beginning only, from class 6th onwards, from the starting only the students will get the exposure to the vocational education. They will provided and given 10 to 15 days, the bagless days, where they can go to do their internship in the nearest industries or ITIs, or some places where they can develop their skills on the particular vocational education which they have chosen. And with the help of this vocational education, I feel, I strongly feel that these are not for that. We will see that each and every home, there you will find one electrician, one the plumber, or the dental carist, or the accountant, or that the bookkeeper, or the people who are having the knowledge of the construction, and all that. Okay, because it gives a skillful education to all. And in NEP it is also said that once the students are passing out from that their schools or the colleges, they must have at least one skill in their hand, and this will only happen when there is a emphasis or the reimagination or reform in the vocational education will be given. Okay, and by 2020, that NEP has suggested to provide 50% GER, or the increase in that GER in the vocational educations, means gross enrollment ratio in higher education, along with which will having the vocational education also. One lok vidya concept has also started, which will try to emphasize, which will try to promote the local skill, which once if they found that it is better and in a many way and going to help the people, it will get introduced not only in that local area, but also give an exposure and a training to the other part of the country, if that was having that much depth or importance. And at last, the education ministry will constitute a NCIVE, that is a National Committee for Integration of Vocational Education. It will consist of the experts from vocational education, and it will see the results or the oversee the efforts taken to improve the vocational education in India. So you see that a lot of efforts are taken to improve or introduce the vocational education. And now in national education policy suggest as suggested that there is all subjects are become the part of the mainstream. Okay, whether it's a vocational education, the mainstream subjects, or the curricular activities or extracurricular activities, the sports games. So everything will be equal when we are imparting education. And there is no science, there is no commerce, there is no humanities, there is no vocational, there is no mainstream. Education is become now only education. That was a wonderful thing which NEP has recommended. So now come to the important or very interesting thing. The bagless days will be encouraged by NEP. If you will go through with the CBSE circulars, I have mentioned here that the name of that circulars also. You go and check it. That these circulars are strongly emphasizing on the bagless or the reduce the burden of students. Okay, so they are not. They must not come in the schools to carry the bags only at the loads of the books and the copies and all that. Main thing of the schools is to provide a education. It may be with the help of the quizzes or the sports or the debate declamations, or there are many other ways of providing them an education. The books can be kept in the classrooms, and they will provided the bagless days to get internship in the many topics or the subjects. The activity based education will get emphasis or importance in as per the recommendation of the NEP. And in that way, the bagless days will also be encouraged. CBSE previously, CBSE was encouraging or just try to implement this thing with the help of their circulars. But now with the continuous efforts of the CBSE, these bagless days become the reality in the coming days. And uh, obviously these students will feel comfortable. They will come to study. They will not come to the carry the burden of their bags. So ultimately, it is implemented in our new system in a very systematic manner. Gradually we will see the less physical burden and with the more knowledge on the brains of the students. So now that we are talking about the codings, education, as we know that the ICT is impacted everywhere, whether it is the medical sector or the education sector or any sector is there. The coding in the class 6 is introduced with the other ICT or information communication technology based things, like whether it is the artificial intelligence or the robotics. So CBSE wants, or that CBSE also introduced it or doing it early with the help of the IBM or the Microsoft or Intel also. But with the recommendation of NEP, their ideas had become more strengthened, become more valuable now. From the class 6 onwards, as I told earlier, that the students will get the coding classes, and this type of education is already being conducted in the countries like the China. The students are getting exposure or the education of the coding right from the beginning only, and we can see the result of that. Okay. So, and not only for the students, when we are talking about the teachers capacity buildings, educators capacity building, we see that AI for all is a 4-hour self-paced micro learning programs launched by CBSE on the first anniversary of NEP 2020 is still available on the CBSE website. I suggest our educators who are sitting that side, they must go through with that. It's a 4 hours AI based education program. You can just go through with the slides or the PDF and have the basic knowledge of artificial intelligence. Gradually the days will come when we are going to dependent for the lot of things on artificial intelligence or the robotics or the computer. See, the pandemic has given us the opportunity to understand the value of this information communication technology. And whatever we are doing right now, it is also a very good example of the basis or the power of the information communication technology, that we are conducting our training sessions. People are sitting at their own places comfortably and we are learning. So that was the power of computer system, the information system or information communication technology. So the keeping that thing in mind, the national education policy has focused on this type of education right from the beginning. So from class 6 onwards, the now students will get the education of these codings or similar type of things like AI or the robotics and all that. So now come to that next thing, that national curriculum framework for the schools. Now we have made a pedagogical structure. We said that we will start with vocational education, we will start artificial intelligence coding or the basic idea of AI or the codings. But a framework, a curriculum, a pathykram, it is required. So for that thing, currently we are going through with that national curriculum framework for 2005. The 10 plus 2 system is following that national curriculum framework 2005. Similarly, when the NEP will introduced or implemented all over the country, whether actually the education it is in the concurrent list of constitution, where the states can take their own decision. But India is a country where previously we see that in at the time of providing education, the states has not bothered much. They have implemented around almost all that recommendations given by the center. So this national curriculum framework will be formulated in a comprehensive way by the national curriculum framework for the school education. It was given in the NEP that it will be framed till 2021, and this work will be taken by the NCRT, National Council of Education, Research and Training. And one more recommendation was given there, that the NCFSC will revise or reviewed or revisited or updated every 5 to 10 years, so that it will be updated as per the time, because in a technological era we see that a lot of changes happening very quickly. So that's why it is suggested. I guess, for the to reviewed and changed within 5 to 10 years. Now, uh, come to that point which are related with us, the teachers, recruitment, and the career path. So, the NEP has suggested that every teacher who was going to get appointed after 2030. Okay, so they must have the 4 years comprehensive integrated course of education. So very soon, those who want to become a teacher, they have to make their mind right from the beginning, that they have to complete the integrated course. Still, but 1 year courses still are there, because few days back I was going through with that newspaper that 1 year B.Ed course was going to implement it. So let's see that what final guidelines are coming, and on the basis of that, what the things will come out really. So, but for apart from that, a national professional standard for the teachers will be developed by 2020, as suggested and recommended by the national education policy, and it will be developed by NCRT along with that consultation with the SCRT and other stakeholders, whether they are the teachers or that school administrations and everybody. Means a strong and the transparent, and along with that, a strong and the transparent recruitment processes will also be devised or derived. Okay, so all these guidelines we are going to have, which was recommended by that national recruitment policy. And biggest change was that the 4 years education policy, as I said, 4 years integrated education degree was going to be implemented. So somebody wants to become a teacher, they have to make up their mind right from the beginning. It's not like that after doing graduation and you decided now I want to become a teacher, I want to provide education, then they had gone through it a few weeks or that years of the courses and they become teacher. Means they want a research based the people or the persons who are having the real enthusiasm or the interest in the teaching, they will come up so that they can put up their best, and they can provide their full efforts in providing education to the children's. Okay, so now come to that next, equitable and the inclusive education learning for all. So we are hearing that education must be equal, and it must be equal and inclusive for everybody, and learning for all is required, whether they are irrespective of their social, economical, or other or personal background. Education must be provided to everybody in a way that it must be accessible. As we talk about the pillars, it must be accessible and equitable for everybody. For that thing, as we see at that, there are SEZs we have heard to promote the industries in the India. Similarly, a special economic zones which will also be going to be developed as per the recommendation of the NEP, National Education Policy. The regions or the areas where the population of the peoples of SEDG, means socially economically disadvantaged group peoples, are the people who are not able to due to any reason, if they are not able to get the education, or the literacy rate is very low in that particular area, then that will be decided or marked as a special economic zone, where the fundings will be there, additional focus will be there, and additional concentrated efforts will be put in there, so that the enrollment ratio or the literacy rate will be improved in that particular area. Similarly, a gender inclusion fund will be constituted to provide the quality education for the all, whether they are the girls or the transgender students. So NEP has including everybody, whether the girls or the transgender word are, I guess, first time introduced in the national education policy. Means there is equality for everybody and inclusive education. We must not create any differences, whether they are boy or the girl, they are the divyang or differently able, whatever. Yeah, any issue? Okay. And similarly, on the basis of that, Navodaya, Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya pattern, or the way of facilities which they are providing to the students, is also be provided to the socially and economically disadvantaged group. So this national education policy has basically focused on the peoples who are, due to any reason, if they are not getting education, they must get the equal opportunity to come and study in the mainstream. And once they are inside the classroom, there must be inclusive education. Even when they are sitting in the classroom, they must get any differences, distinguish or the biasness on the basis of their social, economical, or the personal reasons. Once they're in the classroom, they are only a student, those who have to get that education in the proper manner. So that was the main aim, for learning for all without any differences or without any biasness. So that NEP has recommended it. So that was all about the national silent features of the school education, which I have taken out, or picked out to discuss in this session. As the time permits, I may go through with that some features of highlights of the education, higher education also, like the first education, the first one, 6%. 6% of the GDP was supposed to be, or recommended by that national education policy, that 6% is to be spent. Yeah, this is the assessment. Yeah, that is to be spent of GDP for the education. And it was also recommended in 1968 education policy also. But still, when we are going through the data, we will see that in 2019-20 we have got that 2 point. India has recommended, the budget has recommended 2.8% of budget for education. That was low from the 6%, when last year, the 2021 session, uh, at beginning we got a 3.5% of budget for the education, but it was reduced again to 3.1%. And again, on the 1st of February, this month only, when the budget was announced, we have got a budget for the education that is a 3.1% of our GDP. So still, basically, I want to convey that still we are very far away from the budget portion which was supposed to be provided to the education sector. And without funding and the finance, obviously, it is very difficult to develop a good infrastructure, to develop a good labs, or the laboratories, or the libraries, or to conduct the excursion tours, or many things which are dependent the good. Okay, so the education, the budget is very very important actually. Although this is not only, it is repeating actually my voice. Am I audible? Okay. Okay, so next one, the next point of next features of the higher education is, इसको convert is the single regulatory for the higher education. So this time NEP has recommended a single higher regulatory. The HECI was recommended. HECI, the Higher Education Commission of India, is in place of that UGC, and they will look after the all the parts, whether it is the governance, or the funding, or the accreditation, or the regulation. That their verticals are there, their bodies are there, like GEC, HEGC, NAC, NEC, which are already there. They are also part of that HECI. Basically, the HECI will become, it will become a develop. They will set up an independent body, and it will become a complete umbrella for the all higher educations in India. And as I told earlier, that very soon they are going to, at the 2040 actually, the NEP has given target to set a multidisciplinary universities in all over that India. So as we are having the very short timing, so I just want to give a short reforms. I will try to describe about the reforms in that higher education. Like in the higher education, once the students will come out from the 10+2, they will have a flexible, they will have the opportunity to choose their own subjects right from the beginning of class ninth only. The NEP has recommended a 50% gross enrollment ratio to complete it by 2035. Presently, we are having only 28% of gross enrollment ratio, and 2018 it was having 26%. In higher education, the students will have the multiple entry and exit option. Means they can join the courses, and if they are having any personal or economical issue, they can leave it and again join it. For that thing, there is a ABC, the academic bank of credit is there. Those will take care of their study, their credits, and once they will join it, they will start from the place where they have ended it. So that was a wonderful concept as NEP has given it. If they had completed 1 year, they will get the certificate degree when they will certificate of for that course. So once they will complete 2 years, they will get the diploma for that course, and once they will complete the 3 years, they will get the degree. And once they will complete the 4 years, they will get that research degree of that particular subject. So that was a new concept, the undergraduate program. And MPhil was going to be discontinued. After that master degree, you can go through with that PhD courses. And such type of very good and wonderful suggestions and recommendations and reforms are given there in this higher education by the National Education Policy 2020. So basically, these are the few things. A lot of institutions are developed. Infrastructural developments are there, like for the language, they are promoting it. A lot of national institutes, like on for the Pali, Prachin, or Prakritik, or for the translation. And where NEP has recommended to just establish it. One important thing at last which I like to share it, that multidisciplinary education and research university will going to set up, which will have the standard to promote the research capability and ability of India. So these are going to help a lot for the research development and improve the research publications or the research and development activities, the Meru like universities. Similarly, the National Research Foundation will be going to be established. And this type of and technological integrations, which I said, nowadays, like the SWAM or the NAPTIL, they are providing the online education that are basically focused on that technology only. I have also done the courses from the SWAM. It's a very well established and refined way of education. You can study on your own timing and give the examination in a very transparent manner. Similarly, the online and the digital online education, open educations are also going to be given more given emphasis on that national education policy. Okay, the 50%, as I gone through with that NEP, it was suggesting, it was emphasizing the increasing the gross enrollment ratio of 50%, higher education, including the vocational education, by 2035. MOOCs education, like the massive open online courses, will be given emphasis with that SWAM and the NAPTEL like platforms. So so these are one more, the last thing which I want to suggest, the universalization of education is going to be implemented. Means if some universities which are if they want to open their campuses, they are able to, they are provided an opportunity to open in the India, but there is a condition, they must be the top 100 universities in the world, then they are able to open their campuses. So these are all about that features or that highlights which are given by that National Education Policy 2020 for that school and the higher education in India. And the internationalization, I already told you the proposal, and the PPP model is also going to be introduced. And as I am from the Sainik school, I know that these things are started from the Sainik school only, I guess, because a lot of Sainik schools are going to be established on this model, PPP model, public private and partnership model. uh, and all over India, this process is already going on, as announced by our honorable Prime Minister of India, to establish 100 more Sainik schools along with that present one. And under the Prime Minister of India, the Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog, or the National Education Commission, will be formed, and this will be custodian, and it will look after the vision of the education of India, whatever recommended or suggested by the national education policy or the education system of the India. So these are the all about things which I want to share with my educators who are sitting that side. In the nutshell, you can see the news. We have discussed about the new structure, national research forums, multilingualism, critical thinking, and everything which we have discussed. The main points I had put it here in these slides to have a glance at the one time. I would like to thanks to the people or from the areas or the references from where I have studied and gone through and presented my ideas with the help from them. And at the last, I want to thanks the principal, Sainik School Tilaya, President Sahodaya School Complex, those who had provided me the opportunity to put my views in this wonderful forum. And along with that, I'd like to thanks our school senior master, our coordinator ma'am, who is the coordinator of this session, and our very enthusiastic expert, technical expert of our school, Mr. PK Jha, and one and all, everyone who is one or the other way helped me to present or complete my this session on that NEP. So thank you. Thanks a lot. If anybody is having any queries, I had given my mail ID in my first slides. You may send it to me, or we may discuss it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Ma'am, please. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful and enlightening session. Now I request Principal K.R. Saraswati Vidya Mandir, Mr. S.K. Sahu, to share his views on the session. Sir, please. म्यूट किए हैं क्या? Am I audible?
Yes,
म्यूट ऑन
ma'am.
किए हैं आप, उसको ऑन कर दीजिए. देखिए इसके साथ. नहीं है. So, now I request Principal K.R. Saraswati Vidya Mandir, Mr. S.K. Sahu, to share his views on the session. Sir is there? Sahu sir? छोड़ दिया. नहीं है. नहीं है. अच्छा ठीक है. नहीं है. नहीं दिख रहा है. Okay. So we extend our special thank to Mr. O.P. Yadav, Sir, President, Kodarma School, Sahodya Complex, Mr. Shailendra Kumar, Principal, Modern Public School and Training Coordinator. I thank all the principals, teachers of all Kodarma schools for actively participating in the session and making it successful. Thank you, all of you. Now I request everyone to please log out from the session. We have already shared the feedback form on the Google as well as on YouTube.